This is how we get a pail in the ram. Going to turn the main air on. Once the main air is on, we're going to turn on the bottom regulator only. Make sure the top one is in the off position. Bottom regulator sends air to the whole regulator assembly, but they're controlled separately. The bottom one is for the ram, to ram down into the pail. The top regulator is for the pump motor. So to first get the pail in, turn on the bottom regulator. We have our downward pressure set to our desired pressure. We'll start at about 60 psi. We'll lift up on the handle. And lift the ram all the way up. Once the ram's all the way up, we'll take our pail of material. Make sure there's no dents or the pail is not deformed. If there are dents and it's deformed, your plinton may get stuck in the pail. So we want to make sure it's dent or deformation free. Once we have the pail of material under there, we're going to loosen up 3 or 4 turns on this handle. Do not remove it, just loosen it. As we plunge it down into the pail, this will release the head pressure of air in the pail, and air will come out through this little hole here. As we ram it down into the pail, just make sure our pail's centered. Now as we ram down into the pail, we may need to increase the pressure to get it started into the pail. If we do, just turn up the pressure a little bit. Once it starts in the pail, you can hear the air escaping. Once it seats on the head of material, you can close this. Leave the handle in the downward position. When it's got material in there, it will compress and stop. Now that we have it in the pail, we have our blue handle closed. Now we must bleed the upper part of the pump. This right here is our bleeder. We'll open this, put a catch container under here, and then we'll turn on our top regulator. Then we'll slowly turn up the drive to the pressure in this till our pump starts to pump. Material will come out of here. As the material starts to come up, the pump will slow down. We want to make sure the pump stays moving, so we may need to increase the pressure as the material fills the pump. Once the pump slows down, we have a good flow of material, then we can shut off our top regulator. Top regulator only. This is how we take the pail off. When the pail's empty and we're ready to take the pail off, we'll lift it up a little bit. Leave the handle horizontal. As we push this button slightly, it sends air down through here, pressurizes the pail, and works the plinton off. It helps if you use a rubber mallet when you're pressurizing the pail to get it off. So we'll press lightly on the button and you can hear the air. Pressurize it and use the hammer until the pail comes off. Now you can put your new pail under there and start the bleeding process for the new pail. So this is startup of the system. First thing we're going to do is load up both rams with the pails of material. After the rams are bled, we're going to shut off the top regulator on both those rams as we get them full. So we're going to bleed, purge the rams. They're full of material. but the top regulator is shut off. Now we come around to the front of the system. We're going to take our caps off the bleeder tubes. And we're going to put a catch container underneath the tubes for when we purge the material. The next thing, we're going to do that on both cylinders. The next thing we're going to do is make sure both of these regulators are turned down to 0. So we're going to pull out the handle and turn it counterclockwise until it stops. 0 pressure on both regulators. The next part is going to take 2 people. The first person is going to stand on the foot pedal and open up the dispense valves. The second person is going to go around behind the machine and turn on both the top regulators in the pumps. Once these pumps are turned on, the machine will start to cycle back and forth. We're going to let it cycle back and forth while we're standing on the foot pedal until material comes out of here. I suggest a waste barrel. We'll put a waste barrel underneath there. So as we're standing on the foot pedal, the pumps will pump, the machine will move back and forth until we have both materials flowing from the dispense head. Once we have both materials flowing from the dispense head, we can let go of the foot pedal. And then we can bleed the cylinders. Bleeding the cylinders, the machine will be moving in a direction signified by the green arrow. The green arrow is lit on the left side. We're going to open up the left bleeder on both cylinders at the same time. So we're going to open these left cylinder. The machine's traveling to the left. The machine will travel all the way to the left from just the pressure of the pumps. Once it hits the end of the stroke, material will flow from this bleeder on both cylinders. We're going to let that material flow until there's no more air. The pumps should be stroking. Once we have no more air, we can close both of these bleeders. We're going to open up the other side and let the machine stroke just from the power of the pumps all the way down to the end of the stroke. When it hits the end of the stroke, material will start to flow vigorously from the right side of the cylinders. We let those flow until there's no more air. Then we'll close these valves down. Then we'll come back to the dispense head. Step on the foot pedal. Opening our dispense head. And now we can turn up the regulators on the drive cylinder to increase our flow rate until we get a flow rate we're happy with. Starting the system up in the morning, first thing we're going to do is turn the main air on. Then we're going to check to make sure both regulators are in the on position and our handle is in the downward position. We want to leave the handle in the downward position the whole time we're using the machine. Once the system is powered up with air, we can check to make sure we have at least 100 psi to the main regulator at all times. And then the first thing we're going to do is check to make sure we have both materials flowing from the machine when we activate our dispense head. Once we know we have both materials flowing from the dispense head, we can check our ratio After we check our ratio and confirm we're on ratio, we can put on the mixer and start production. This will be shut down. Every time we remove a mixer, we want to do a dump shot. Remove the mixer and just step on the foot pedal, and this will do a dump shot, clearing any crossover contamination in the nose ports. Then we'll wipe the nose ports clean, and that's it for the dispense head. The next thing for shutdown is to just turn this lever off. This lever, as long as these regulators are left on, when you turn this lever off, it will drain all the air pressure from the rams. So when you go to start up, you won't have to remember to turn these regulators on separately. So you can leave those on, just shut off the main air, and that will shut off all the air to the system. This is maintenance on the system. We want to make sure we keep the nose clean. There is nothing to tighten, oil, or lubricate up here on the dispense valves. We just want to make sure that there's no leaks on the inside. If there's leaks, we want to replace the valves. Each cylinder has 2 oil reservoirs, so there's 4 total on the system. We want to check the oil level in each reservoir daily. And once a week, using a 1/4-inch ball driver, we're going to check the bolts, make sure they're snug in a crisscross pattern. We want to make sure that the gap around the shaft is as even all the way around as we can. Again, there are 2 on each cylinder, 4 total. That is all the maintenance we need to do to the cylinders. We want to make sure the shafts stay clean and there's no debris or glue built up on the shafts. As we use the system, we want to make sure that these bottles do not fill with material. If they start to fill with material as we're using the system, you have a clog in the nose. These are pressure reliefs. If the system is overpressurized, material will flow into the bottles, but there is no maintenance other than making sure that these, again, are kept clean and that are not bent. On the back side where the rams are, the maintenance we need to do on the rams, we're going to do with this wrench here and your torque wrench. This has a square hole in it for your torque wrench. And what we do is put this in the holes, line it up with the holes, get our torque wrench on here, and we're going to tighten this packing wet cup to 35 foot-pounds. We're going to keep the oil half full in the wet cup and clean, free of bugs, dirt, and debris. We're going to do the same thing on this ram, keeping the shafts clean and free of material. That is the only maintenance we need to do to the rams.